Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's a little cringy to say, but I'm saying it. Anyways, my name's Harley, I'm an indie author, and today I'm going to be talking about my recent release. The recent release of my sci-fi horror novel, The Mush. Let's get into it because honestly, I didn't have anything planned to say, so I'm just gonna spill it out from my mouth. You know. Let's start with the idea that came about. It came pretty random, to be honest. Like, I wasn't expecting it. I didn't expect to get an idea from what inspired it, but it happened. Anyways, buckle up, it's story time. So, I read a book by a fellow indie author, and it is a horror novel. I read it. It was so fantastic. And then after I read it, I had a nightmare one night. And it was so vivid, the nightmare. I woke up and I remembered a lot of it. And I was like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I just made that into a novel? So that's what I did. I started writing down what I remembered from the nightmare, and I just kept going, and I never stopped. But to say thank you to this nightmare I had, let's talk about what caused the nightmare, because it's quite fantastic. It's a very unique read. So let's talk about it real quick. And said book is We Come Bearing Curses by Zachariah Chamberlain. Oh my god. This was fantastic. It's definitely along the lines of cosmic horror. If you like H.P. Lovecraft, you'll love this. The vivid imagination, the characters, the plot itself was utterly fantastic. And yes, I read this book and then afterwards I had a nightmare that wasn't really relating to any of this, which was great. Yes, I think it's available on KU, so go check it out. And that's how I read it, but it was so good. I needed a trophy for my shelf. So I remember the nightmare being pretty colorful despite it being the nightmare. It was really kind of all over the place, kind of like how, some dreams are. But I remember things being mushy. Couldn't walk in a straight line. I was being chased by something gross. It was like dripping and whatever. It was a mess. And I was like, I can work with this because I know a mess like the back of my hand. And I took that inspiration and I was like, you know what? This is something I can work with. I've always wanted to write a horror novel, and I never thought it would be that soon. And that's the genre I hopped into because of this nightmare. I knew very early on that I wanted the book to be set in the 80s because that is my favorite decade. It's from where my favorite movies are from, my favorite music, and the style alone. Wow. But I knew exactly that would be my strong suit when setting this story. I reference music from that decade, food, clothes. I wasn't too crazy about like all of that because I really wanted to focus more on like the scaring and like grossness, but specifically it opens in 1988 with my characters gonna go see Nightmare on Elm Street 4 in theaters. That's literally how chapter 1 starts, and I knew exactly that is the feel I wanted for this. So to give a little more context for this book, I'm gonna read the synopsis that is on the back. So if you get mad about me telling you the dog dies, literally says it. Make sure I look okay. Anyways, it was the summer of 1988 when everything happened. No one saw this sickness coming. They were told to stay away from the forest. Avoid all toads and mushrooms if possible. Don't get in contact with anyone who sports a rapid fever, but scared people tend to break, life-saving rules. Charlie Everett ignores the first part of the town's warning. She steps into the wet forest in hopes of finding her missing dog. Poor dog. However, all she is met with are pale green eyes and slowly dripping flesh from her furry pal Copper. Excuse me. When I talk too fast because I get excited, okay? Let that be a lesson. Don't slow your roll. Me. Anyways, that was the synopsis from my book. Along with knowing I wanted this book set in the 80s, I knew I wanted the pet to not live, because in a lot of horror films, the dog or cat or whatever the pet is, it usually lives. Unless you're like Cujo from Stephen King, then you ain't gonna live. So I wanted to go that route because everyone loves a dog, and mostly people get upset when the pet is threatened, like its life is threatened. And I was like, well, I want to create sad emotional response with this book, so I killed the dog. It's not pretty, but you have to read it to really know what goes on with this. And the dog is not the only animal in this book that kind of dies. I'll just tell you, the sickness is caused by an experimented frog, like a frog that was experimented on. I won't say anything more because I want you to read it. But there's a lot of things happening. And along with the 80s theme, I had to recall a bunch of 80s movies that I love, and a lot of it was science fiction. I was like, okay, cool. I know a lot of science fiction. Let me create my own kind of thing. And then I also thought about what inspires me that are from my generation, like my era. So I also use that as inspiration as well. And just things that I already knew, that I already wanted. I just smushed it all together and you get this book. Fun fact time, because there's plenty for this book. I've never really seen a horror novel have content warnings in it. And I know a lot of people today would like a content warning, especially if it's dark romance, because me and some other girlies who like the dark romance really want to know what's going to go on in this book, you know, be extra hyped. But it was a horror, so I wasn't really sure if I should include one, because isn't that the point of horror? You want to be scared, you want to be wowed and shocked and upset. Yes, but also this day and age, people kind of want to know what's going to go on. So I have a content warning page, and some of it tells you when something specific is happening, because some of it may be extra triggering for people, so I wanted them to know how they could skip it. Other things I just said, there it is, you're just gonna have to find it yourself. Kind of like hide and seek, you know? So I did that. And what else did I do? This cover took me a minute to figure out how I wanted it to do. I kind of tried to look up vintage horror novels from the 80s, obviously, and then I hand drew a background, and that was going to be the book. But then I was like, that's just not enough. And then I didn't want to like go a cliche route, how like a typical 80s book would feel. I needed to do something different, so I went the simple route. So you got this spine, and then the back. But I still wanted to use the hand-drawn background I did, but I didn't think it no longer fit. So I redrew it, and then I used it for the cover of the hardcover. I don't have that copy on hand. I haven't bought one yet. I will. And because it's a hardback copy, I kind of call it the special edition, because it not only does it have different chapter art and scene break art in it, it also has a page dedicated to ARC readers specifically, because I don't think it would have sold as much without them, or at least those who responded to the book and to me. Yeah, I am really proud of this book. I know it's definitely imperfect. It could have been way better than it is, but I never thought I would be writing in this specific genre. It is my favorite genre book-wise, movie-wise, you know, and it was kind of like a surreal moment to have this book out in the world as a horror with my name on it. No, it's no pen name, it's my actual name. So I think it's like very cool, you know? And the book I'm currently writing is also a horror, but it's paranormal. I'll get to that in a separate video whenever I get the copy, so I can, you know, show you. But I didn't think I would ever be in this genre, because nowadays the book world is very heavily saturated with romance and fantasy. So at one point I tried that, but it was a fail. So I got into horror and I realized I really like it. But let's keep this between us YouTube people, because I'm not announcing this until June or May. Anyways, I plan to go into romance, but with elements of horror, because horror is my favorite. But I also thought putting romance into it would appeal to other people. And eventually, I planned to write fantasy, to give it another shot, but not until a few books from now. You know? Hopefully that makes sense. So, obviously with this book, I created the cover myself. I used the pro version of Canva to make it. I also edited it myself, so if you see some typos in there, yes, my bad, I missed it. Yeah, my own editor. I could not afford one. I didn't have time to look for one. I didn't have the patience to want to save up and look for one. Plus, I don't like the idea of someone else touching my things. So I didn't want someone to touch this. So sure, the grammar's a little off, but whatever. I know what I'm doing, sort of. I've got an English degree. I've written a ton of papers. I've been featured in a creative arts magazine for my writing. I got this. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's readable. According to some Goodreads reviews. According to some Goodreads reviews. I don't think I said that right again, but you get the idea. I didn't hand draw anything. I just used it from Canva. So the inside art I got from Canva. But my next book, most of that is hand drawn. And then the rest is like accents from Canva. I should do a separate video on how I would do that, because like making book covers is difficult for me, at least, because I have to have the certain vibe for my book. And trust me, I have a lot made because I have a lot of books planned. That would not be a bad video idea. Remind me. Okay, so if you're wondering, there is a Pinterest board for this book. I'm going to probably put it in my link tree. And I think I can put that in my YouTube bio. If not, it's in my Instagram bio. And then I don't have a playlist for this. Okay, when I was writing this book, I included songs because my characters like to listen to music when they're together or alone. I listed a few songs in here that is from this decade. So I'm gonna compile all of those songs and put it in an official playlist that you can have access to on Spotify, and then also will be put on my link tree along with all of my other stuff. Also, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get to have exclusive access before any of my other social medias about book stuff, author events, because I have one coming up. You'll see that first. Or I guess you hear that now. But the exclusive details you will get through that newsletter. And I have been doing it monthly, consistently for like a few months now. So that's good too. So I have another idea planned for a video concerning this book, but it's also with other books that kind of have the same feel as this one. So if you want to, do all of that, read all of that, I have a video coming up. It's like a recommendation video, basically, with my book included, because I want to start getting into more book stuff and not just talk about my stuff, because in my mind, I'm always a reader before I'm an author, so I want to prove that to myself. I say it, but I'm going to prove it to myself. Well, you'll see. I got a lot of things planned for us, I promise. Alright, I believe I've talked enough in this video. So, let me wrap it up and say thank you for watching. I talk a lot and probably a little too fast. I'll work on that. But, thank you for taking the time out of your day or night to watch this. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will answer them. All of them. Definitely follow my social media because you'll find some cute stuff to look at, some awesome information. Don't forget about the newsletter because you will get the information first before any other platform that I actively, am on. Anyways, totally check out We Come Bearing Curses by Zachariah Chamberlain. You will not regret it. I promise. And do me the this awesome solid of checking out my book, The Mush. It is a sci-fi horror novel set in the 80s. It is available on Amazon in 3 different formats: paperback, ebook, and hardback. So, thank you.